5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy, and welcome to the British and Irish Military Records Study Group. We are so happy to have Claire Brisson-Banks with us today. I never say the V part. What does the V stand for, Claire?
Virginia.
Oh, I love that name. Okay. So just to get us oriented a little bit, got a few things to bring to your attention here. We use, let me pull it up. Well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about Claire. This is her page over at ICAPGen. It's one of several credentialing organizations in the genealogy vertical. This is the International Commission for the Accreditation of Professional Genealogists. And Claire, just remind us what your bachelor's degree was in.
Computer Information Science.
And the MLIS is Master?
Library and Information Science.
Okay, so your master's degree. All right, and so that's a little bit about her and all of her online activity or Pinterest board. You probably want to see her at buddinggenealogist.com. That's for newbies, and you'll find that Claire is so easy to talk with. The next thing to share with you is the Google Sheet that Claire has created for all of the record sets that we happen to review during our discussion of British and Irish military records. This seems to be a really good way to do to pull together all our links, doesn't it, Cousin Russ?
Absolutely.
So she's got tabs across the bottom for National Archives, online records, Ancestry.com. Let me move over, FamilySearch.org, the Genealogist.co.uk, FindMyPast. Let me quick go over here a little bit. Military artifacts, that's interesting. Pre-1707, just remind me, before 1707, you didn't have an army in Britain, did you?
Not really. It wasn't until 1707 when they joined forces with the Scottish and the Irish and all that.
Well, they sure could have used a good army in 1066.
They certainly could.
Okay. And then at the very end of all of our Dear Myrtle study group research sheets like this, we create and include a research log. Cousin Russ, during one of our other hangouts this week, I think it was the one on citation, a person was confusing citing sources with their research log, and that a research log does include citations, so you know that you've looked at a particular record set before, or film or book, but this is like the running detail, and you'd want to do it for one ancestor, you've got a space even for an ID number. Thanks for designing this part of our worksheet, Cousin Russ. We appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. That's fun.
The fact that it's online in Google Docs means that everyone can have access to it, but you don't fill in her worksheet, do you? What do you do with this Google Doc?
I would download it. I will, at the end of the series, I'm going to download this worksheet, and I will also put it on my Google Docs, so I have it online as well, because I don't know where I might need it. You know, I'll put it in both places. I'll work on it in one, but I keep it in both places because I'll be teaching a class and want to use it, so that's why I like to have it in the cloud.
You want to refer to it because you remember Claire showed us some wonderful website.
Absolutely.
So folks, and then my strategy is to download my own copy every week, like about Wednesday after Claire has finished adding things to it. And then because Claire, you've been adding new things every week, and we're going to go look at some of them right now, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so you want us to start at, oh, by the way, folks, on this main page, let me just show you this, where we have the same graphic. And there is a link to British military records online, and these are both FamilySearch And there's one other research guide we probably should put on the main page, and that's this one, Russ, or Claire, the one at the National Archives of the UK.
I'll stick that on.
Okay, thanks.
It'll be there. It'll be there. Consider it done.
Cousin Russ has given you all these links. I'm just amazed at how many research guides they have at the National Archives. And so this would cover Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Great Britain, but and some Irish records that are interfile, but other Irish records are not part of this collection as far as military. Is that correct?
That's a good question. I know the Irish, National Archives of Ireland have some stuff, but okay. I think the majority is going to be here.
Still here. Okay, so that's bringing me up to speed. Where shall we go first, Claire? Tell me what to do.
Let's click on the National Archives.
Yes.
And then if you could be so kind as to click on the section where it says there's a XXX.
Okay, that's for the British Army muster and payroll lists.
Right.
Wow, it's a huge collection.
It is, and I thought before we hit World War I, we need to just wrap up a couple of things. And the British Army muster rolls, if you look at it, it says on it you cannot view online, and I love how Audrey pointed that out to us.
Oh, it's so marvelous.
Mm-hmm. Right, and this is a fabulous resource, but we do have some available on Ancestry. But let's look at this. If you stop right there, it says this can be used to trace your British Army between 1730 and 1898 who were not discharged to a pension. That's important.
Oh, because otherwise we're looking at, what's the name of that collection?
Chelsea Pension Records.
Chelsea Pension Records. I knew it started with a C, but I was thinking of quite a few other C words as far as localities. So if they didn't get a pension, this is where you'd see the muster rolls. And muster and payrolls, I mean, they had to muster in every month or however
usually it's every quarter, and this is where they would actually get paid.
Okay.
And so an individual family or an individual person, they're wondering, okay, they're looking at this family group record. Maybe there's 6 children in it, and they've got a couple born in Ireland, a couple born in England, a couple born in Scotland, and they go, what the heck is going on? And when they look at the muster rolls, they'll find out, well, when they were born, those children were born, they were in those locations, and so you sort of use them like following a timeline.
All right, now it says regimental muster rolls here. So does that mean you need to know the unit your ancestor is in because they're filed by regiment?
Yep, it does mean that, regimental musters, and it says that, musters rather, and it does say some of them were taking every month, some every quarter. It said that the frequencies varied, and so it does give you some information about what kind of information is available within them. But when I went there into the National Archives, I was able to take some pictures of what they look like. So if you could click back on the sheet for me.
Okay, I'm going back to the Google sheet.
And click on the one right underneath it.
Okay, a sample muster record.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, the reason I want this to people sometimes when you're looking at microfilm and things, this is an actual book. That's what it looks like. It's huge. I mean, they are heavy, huge size books. And so I just want people to get an idea, because you sometimes look at something, you have no idea how big it is. And I cannot imagine having to carry those books around, gigantic ledger books on horseback or whatever which way they did to get them there.
So this is actually your photo. You contributed this to the FamilySearch wiki to help us understand what the heck these record books look like. Okay.
Right.
And
now,
so here's a sample pay list.
Right. And we're going to go to Ancestry to see a better sample, but this is what, when you look at the size of the pages, that's exactly what you're looking at. I mean, this is huge. When you open these things up, it's major.
Okay, so I can barely read the column headings like number, rank, name, pay, what they got paid, etc. For 1812. Okay, so let's go back.
Audrey's joining us.
Hi, Audrey. We're looking at samples of the general muster books and pay lists, War Office Record Group 12.
Now, this is a one that actually Audrey actually got a copy for me because, you know, most of the books don't have a wife or anything. But starting in, if you go back to the beginning, back to one page there, go back a little bit before you hit that. If you read what it says that starting in 1868, they would actually list the husbands and wives as shown below.
Did that mean that some of the money went home and some of it went to the soldier, or no?
That would be the married establishment. Hi there. Married establishment would be the wives who were with the regiment.
Right.
Okay, got it.
And they would normally they'd be catered for. They'd have rations and they'd have accommodation. So they were they were officially there. A lot of others were unofficially there, but they just had to fix for themselves.
So was it a matter of officers had more rights to having their wives with them versus enlisted men or the lower ranks?
Yeah, it was completely different. The other ranks were not officially meant to be married, but in practice, the army authorities came to realise it was quite useful having a few women about the place. So, in each regiment, a certain number of men were allowed to have their wives on the establishment. I mean, it was fairly limited. The great majority of soldiers' wives were not officially there, so you might find them. You might find baptisms of their children, but if they're not on the official register, then they're not catered for, and the army has no responsibility for them.
All right, so folks, we're talking with Audrey Collins, and if you're just joining this series and this is your first time viewing this Hangout, Audrey's day job is to work at the National Archives. I always put in parentheses UK because our National Archives here thinks they are the only archive.
Yeah, we're the two National Archives that don't feel the need to qualify it by country because we're both the archives. Yeah.
I totally.
Everywhere else as qualified by the country name, but we're somehow special.
So we're excited that you're able to get home in time to join us today too. So Claire, and we're looking at these samples because they are the one muster roll that is, and it's a pretty essential time period that is not online.
Well,
yes.
If you could slip down just a little bit, and you'll be able to pick up the link for Ancestry. It is there. And again, this is good for us because it's showing people. Scroll down just a little. There it is right there.
Okay, so I'm a small section of the muster rolls and pay lists. All right, so let's go to Ancestry. See what, okay, so they just have 1812 through 1817, which is fine. It's all good. Do you want us to do a sample search?
Take a look so they'll be able to see from the picture of the book and they'll able to see what we're talking about here. So.
My maiden name is Player. It's an English name. So I decided to look at this. So we've got wow. I'm wondering if these folks were typically, let's just pick Player, John Player, and view the record, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, we have the transcription here, which I love to take this, copy and paste it into notes in my genealogy program. I also like to get this information or this entire bit of information. And in fact, there are some people like Barbara Rennick who do not go to the effort unless there's a shortage of information in this this information provided by Ancestry. She doesn't go through using citation templates and things in her genealogy program, but at the very least there's enough I can get back there. Shall we view it?
I would say go.
Oh, let's view it and see what we've got. And
that's the best part.
I know. Okay. All right, there's this same information is all here that you could copy and paste. But, all right, I'm going to...
You'll have to blow this one up.
All right, so first of all, in zooming in, at the top of this page, we see it is the border of the page, where it's bound.
So maybe if we went to the one before it or something, it might show us that.
Yeah, let's go to the previous one. So I'm going to go to the bottom at Ancestry, click the microfilm, and I'm on image 553. Let's go to 552 just to see what the column headings are.
That's
Wow.
it. Yay.
So now we have a number in the report from other vouchers referred to, number of the companies in which paid or something, BORNE, I don't know, number of each class entitled to higher pay from length of service. So now we're dealing with individuals in quasi and pretty much alpha order. There's an OCL. We have an OCL in our community. Privates. And these are their pay allowances, periods for which payment has been made or were not issued, periods for what the respective persons are considered to be entitled to. So
Right.
like if they didn't receive it, but this is what they're due. Okay. And their rate per day. So when it says half, what does that mean? Half a
day.
Well, rate per diem, does that mean doesn't mean half a shilling?
No.
Or it doesn't mean half a crown. What is that unit of, I don't know. Amount issued, pounds, shillings, and what's pence. Why isn't it a P instead of a D?
Because it's from, it's not, well, pound is L. It's Libri.
Yes.
Yeah, Libri, solidi, and denarii. It's Latin.
Okay, all right. So it's a Latin thing.
It's a Latin thing, yeah.
All right, well, and I see how I've been conditioned to recognize the pound sign, which is not shift 3 on our keyboard. Okay, allowances in lieu of beer and on a march to non-commissioned officers, and then explanatory marks for reasons of absence.
Right.
Duty, command, hospital. Yeah, so that's all very interesting. Discharged.
Right, so
third,
those are the
second. So that looks like quarterly.
Yep, that looks like a quarter set of records.
Okay, so a person was at the hospital or they were sent on some other duty, and let's see what other kinds of reasons they wouldn't be there. Hospital. Okay, so in order for us to understand what it would be for my one ancestor, I would have to make a page that had two parts. It had the top part and the bottom part, and it's clearly being photoshopped so that I would know what those column headings meant. This is incredible, even though it's for such a short time period. And one other thing that somebody asked me to do was to show them how. You just click save to your computer. Or you could also save it to a person on your tree. Okay, good. Very interesting. Thank you. Anything else here that I should do, Claire, before we go back?
That kind of wraps up I wanted to point out the muster records because we never really got a chance to get in them, and they go, if you notice that the time period is right up to 1898, so that covers quite a lengthy amount of time, and so we're going to hit World War I now, but unless there's something that, I mean, maybe Audrey wanted to say some extra something in there, but I thought it was interesting that we're in the centenary time because this is 2016. And the World War I was from 1914 to 1918. I know they have 1920 records. So when I was doing the research for World War I noticed there's a lot of new things coming up because of the centenary celebration of recognizing World War I. I thought it was interesting.
Audrey, did you have an ancestor that served in World War I?
Yes, my grandfather was in. He was in. My old grandfather was in the First World War. My young grandfather was in the Second.
All right. So what was his name? We'll try to look for him here.
Well, you won't find because he wasn't in the army. He was in the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve. Then he was in the Royal Naval Division. Then he was in the Royal Navy. But I've got I've got assorted other ancestors that were in. Not direct ancestors, but
John, what about your grandfather? Do you have an ancestor?
Yeah, my mother's father was in the First World
War. And what was the name?
William Russell Mooney.
M-O-O-N-E-Y. Okay, William
Russell.
Okay, so we're going to search for that. And it was saying no matches found because it's trying to look for that ancestor in my online ancestry member tree. But so ignore that. We're just going to click and see if we can find him in this collection.
He was in the Hearts and Beds.
Okay, so Essex Regiment.
No,
From
Hertfordshire and
Glasgow.
Bedfordshire.
Pardon?
Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire Regiment.
Okay, and I don't
Hearts
see
and
that.
Beds.
Gosh, there's a lot of them. Those are just Williams. They're disregarding the
Russell.
I see that. Okay.
And
now we're up to Robert.
Tighten up your sliders.
Okay, so we'll make it absolutely. Well, it is.
Move it. No, back one notch. There. No, the second notch from the right.
Is, okay, here. Oh, second notch from the right. Okay,
right now update.
The right in this one.
Now update.
All right. Thank you. That's a practical thing to show us. So thank you. Okay. I still don't see him.
No.
Born 1898.
All right, let's edit our search, and this is exactly what people are going to have to go through. 1898. Okay, so now we will search it.
Unfortunately, there's a big health warning you have to have with these records, that series of records, when you get one, they're fantastic, but unfortunately, about 2/3 of them were destroyed by bombing during the Second World War.
Right.
So if you find one, they're great, but don't be surprised if you don't. But there is another series to check.
Okay.
On Ancestry. Yeah.
Okay, we'll look at this one first. I'll just pick one. I was trying so hard, but what I did do is show you some alternatives for tweaking your search. But having done all that tweaking, wasn't it good that Audrey explained so much of this was damaged during World War II? Okay, let's see what this looks. Oh my gosh, this is what's left of it. It looks like.
Yep. They called the burnt record collection. Correct, Audrey?
That's right. Yeah. Sometimes they're just a bit charred around the edges, but they were the ones that survive. A lot of them were fire damaged or water damaged from the water they used to put out the fire. But where they do survive, they often go on for pages and pages, so they can be really good.
All right, let's go to the next page. Yep, this is the second page. Bridget Mooney, next of kin. That's pretty good.
That would be a wife. Yeah, that would be a wife.
No, that's the mother.
In this case, mother.
Or the mother. Oh, it says the mother, right? Mother.
They didn't measure the chest. Okay, but
they usually did.
Okay, and then let's go to the next page. Let's see. I really like this much better. Okay. Let's go to this one and see. So I need to zoom out because this is way too hard. So this is some kind of a postcard, it looks like.
Yeah.
Let's look at the back side of the postcard. Oh my gosh, if you actually find somebody in this collection, this is their victory medal. Oh.
Okay. You don't see those very often because we've got medal cards for everybody who served overseas. Got the standard medals, and the medal rolls and the medal cards survive, but they don't tell you very much at all. But what's quite unusual is to find the postcard that was sent to the man, or for him to, it went with the medal for him to write back and say, yes, I acknowledge I've got it.
Wow.
Why that survives, I don't know, but it's one of the accidental ones. So you get standard pieces of paper, you get the attestation and the description and summary of service, details of family, maybe a medical history. But you also get any little random piece of paper and odd little scraps of backs of envelopes, and sometimes they're wonderful.
Okay, Russ from the community, and I'll do a quick new search on Leah's.
Kathleen says, oh yes, I found one of my guys, and it even gives his marriage date and children's birth dates.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, that's fabulous.
My grandfather was in, as I say, the Hearts and Beds, and they were in France, and the Germans did the pincer movement, and he dived into a culvert, and he thought he was the only one of his squad his platoon that survived. And years later, he went to the house of one of his pals because he happened to be in the town, and knocked on the door, and there was his pal.
Oh.
And his pal thought he was the only one who survived.
Oh my gosh.
They both dived into a culvert, but from either end.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so in this record group, this is what we're in the Paul Crosby. Of course, Leah, you can be doing this on another screen. We're seeing these several. This is a mother relationship to soldier, sister. So what they've done in this record group is they've not only used the soldier's name, but they've used next of kin's name as a search criteria.
Yes, if you look to the left, it does give you that little bit of information. It says the database contains the surviving service records of the, right there,
non-commissioned officers and other ranks, but who did not re-enlist in the Army prior to World War II. So if you've got a guy that went into both, he's not going to be in this record set, it implies. So, good. Okay.
So why don't you see what they look like? I'm not sure what they... I mean, I think...
let's see what it is where it's the mother. Let's go look at that.
It might...
He's named after Baden-Powell.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay. And so what they did was they indexed that second page. Here's Robert Charles Chamberlain. And it's not quite spelled the way. Yeah, it's spelled the same way. But anyway, interesting to know that that's that page 2 where they did, in fact, measure his chest, 37 inches. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Let's go see what else we've got here.
All right. So now if you want to click, there's the metal index cards that Audrey was talking about is next there.
Okay. Got it. That's what you wanted us to look at. So now I'm going to look for Worthington, just as a sample. And we'll take Alexander. And, well, first I want to talk about the difference between going directly here. Just a minute, let me click somewhere else. Directly here to the little, it's like a little magnifying glass looking at a document. In this part where it says view record. Because when you view record, you're actually viewing the transcription as well as having an option to look at the transcription. Wonder what happened to my screen share, Cousin Russ. All right, we will go, I don't know, but we'll go back and do it.
Can I add a word of caution?
Yes.
The transcripts, copying and pasting the transcript without checking the record can be fraught with danger.
You're absolutely right. And what I do is copy and paste it into notes, and I have 2 screens where I'd still have this document on the one screen, but the other screen I have my Roots Magic where I just pasted it, and then I can go letter for letter and figure this out if it made sense.
Ancestry have a habit of adding fields of information that is not on the original.
Okay, so that's good to know. Let me pick another one where it looks like there's information on the second page, may not be. Looks like none of them have anything on the second page. This fellow served in France. Oh dear. Albert Worthington. I can't even imagine. Okay. All right, so this British Army World War I metal rolls index cards. That's what you're referring to, Audrey, wasn't it? You're muted. Can you go up to the top and...
I don't know how I did that.
I had to mute you. There's an awful lot of background noise.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah, and I did check my settings this time, and it was okay. It was okay. I'm on the headset.
Yeah, it's much better than normal. Yeah, but still. Yeah.
Everybody's got everybody who served overseas got a medal, and the records do survive. Now, these are the cards that were produced to index the medal rolls themselves, and everybody's there, and it's one of the few sets of records where you get officers and men in the same set of records.
Okay.
Usually you've got they're separate. When you said about the backs of the cards, you don't very often get something on the back of the card for other ranks, but you quite often do for officers. You'll often get an address on there, and all the information on there. That this is quite a useful one, because you can see that the man changed regiments at some point, and also changed numbers, which was quite normal. He got the victory in British.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can't read what the first regiment is properly. Manchester.
Manchester. Yeah, Manchester.
And then the Northumberland Fusiliers. The standard medals were the British and the Victory. They pretty much came as a matching pair. And then this man also got the 15 star, and that meant that he was a volunteer. That meant that he joined up in he'd seen active service overseas in 1915, because conscription didn't come until 1916. So anybody who got the 14 star or the 15 star, they were volunteers, and sometimes they were regular soldiers before the war. And this also says that he served in France, which is what most of them did. Now, all those numbers there, and the roll number and page number, fortunately, you do not need to worry about those. There used to be a terrible process where we had to go to a blue book and then a white book, or was it a white book and then a blue book, work out a document reference, order up a medal roll and look through it. Fortunately, you don't have to do that anymore, because the medal rolls themselves have also been digitized, and they're on Ancestry. They don't usually tell you very much more. Very occasionally they do, but they're a good alternative, and everybody should be in the cards or the medal rolls or both. And that's quite, it's a consolation prize if you haven't got a service record.
All right, so I'm trying to relate this to what I've seen on Mr. Mertz. He got ribbons for service in certain areas or certain time periods, not medals. You'd get a Medal of Honor or a Purple Heart or something like that for being in battle and doing extraordinary things, and that was different. So it seems like rather than giving ribbons, although your medal may have had a ribbon on it, the ribbons were in tiny little bars that were like maybe not quite half an inch tall and maybe 3/4 of an inch wide, and you wore them, and they'd fit on long bars or something. Russ, can you help me a little with that? I don't see Mr. Mert watching. I think he's doing some gardening for me.
There's ribbons and medals, and I cannot on screen share that comment, and I apologize. I don't know what's going on. Anyhow, there are ribbons which are all the same size. They're about a 1/4 inch high and about an inch long, that are placed on bars. Either the normal width, I believe, is 3.
Yeah.
So you would have 3, and they would be pinned across the top of your shirt pocket. And then if you have 2 or 3 rows of medals, then you'll go. They'll add on top. So
yeah, so you can tell how many just by the number of ribbons going across and down that person has been in the service a long time. If
not necessarily. The length of service for the enlisted person is the number of stripes on the sleeve.
The sleeve, okay.
So
all right,
if you're more than.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to compare and contrast. Do you want to turn off Business Hangouts and turn it back on?
I tried that already.
Oh, it didn't work. Okay. All right. So very interesting. What should we do next, Claire?
I just as in regards to the medals and the pins, I sent you a link to show you some of the British medals and links that we've posted on when I worked with John Kitzmiller. And so Audrey would be able to recognize some of these. These were also, it says it's a brigadier general and stuff, and so these are some of the awards that they would have.
Here's the second one is the World War I 1914, the 15 star.
Yeah.
That's the one you're referring to, this second
Yeah,
one.
I'm not brilliant on medals. I mean, I have to answer questions on them because we get a lot. But if you, on our various research guides, and also within Discovery with their digitized records, we've got a page where we've also got the medal index cards. Now, our medal index cards, most of the time, they're not as good as Ancestry's because we had the cards many years ago. We microfiched them, but only the fronts, so they're rather nasty black and white microfiche.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't have the backs, but there is still a value in at least looking at our page, because we Ancestry have got most of the cards, which they got from the Western Front Association, but they don't include the all of the cards that were created. They don't have, I think it's the women's services and some of the gallantry awards, whereas we've got a more complete set, even though we've only got the fronts. But the really good thing, and this is the free bit, is the page that tells you all about it within Discovery. If you go to if you just go to Discovery, if you pull down that little super menu there where you've got the red circle with menu in it.
Yes.
If you click on the little arrow at the bottom, right, and then you can see there, that's it, search Discovery.
Oh, this is perfect. This is great.
Right. Okay. Now, you see where it says popular collections. Go to medals.
Okay. All right, let me give you this link, guys, as soon as I get there.
Right. And then it's actually the very top guide, which has got a very inappropriate illustration on it, but ignore that. So if you go into British Army Medal Index cards.
Yes.
Now, that's the thing that you want to look at. So that's the link that you want to send.
All right, this is the link that we want to share. First of all, I'm going to get this name, and I'll share this. And Claire will add it to the list here.
Now, it explains much better than Ancestry does. They've got better images, but this guide explains a lot more about the background to the medals. And also, if you scroll right down, it's got illustrations of the individual medals, and also it explains what some of the abbreviations are on them. So it's very useful. Even if you don't download anything from there, and on the whole,
there it is.
If Ancestry have got it, get it from Ancestry. If Ancestry don't have it, get it from us. But it explains what they all look like, and it also mentions something which is not a medal, but it's called the Silver War Badge. There it is. It was a badge that if someone was invalided out, they were given this badge, and they were only small badges, and they were to wear it on their civilian clothing. It was to show that you had done your bit, and you'd been injured, so that women didn't hand you white feathers in the street. So that was why
that you were a coward. Yeah,
exactly. So that was the way of showing that they'd done their bit. Now, the Silver War Badge rolls, they're also on Ancestry, and there's a very quirky thing on Ancestry, which we keep reporting to them, and they haven't fixed it yet. But if you do a search within a category, all military, and you put in, Fred Worthington, you will get loads of results. You'll get service records and this and that and the other. You get medal cards. But for some reason, Silver War Badge results don't show up on those group results. You've got to go in through the card catalogue or something, find the Silver War Badge, and search there on its own.
Right, so let me put the title in and see what we can find. And then we're going to look at what here. So this collection doesn't show up in the hit list.
No, and I don't know why. They did fix it for a while, and then it's gone back again. So I have it bookmarked on my own Ancestry landing page so that I can go to it quickly. But it's, and if you do a search on there, you can see what one of the medal rolls looks like, and they sometimes give a bit of extra information.
Okay, and then we're going to look at what John has. So we'll go to Alfred and look at this. And, okay, so something from Liverpool. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh, it's typed. What a heavenly thing. All right, let's look at this side.
That's wonderful that it's all typed up and everything.
Okay, so they have their two numbers if they came from one regiment to another. I can see that.
Yes, you have to be careful because they've got the badge number as well, which I think is in the middle. So don't get them mixed up because that's different. But it's one of the few records, if you look, there's a column that it will give exact dates of service, which you don't normally get except on a service record. So if you've got somebody where you don't have a service record, but he was invalided out with a Silver War badge, you can at least get the dates of service. And it will tell you, it says it'll be under King's regulations, this, that, and the other, but it will tell you why he was discharged, whether it's either wounds or sickness.
Sick or wounded, yeah.
And an awful lot of them, it was sickness, not wounds, which...
we saw that in Civil War here.
Yeah, exactly the same.
All right, John.
Trench warfare.
Yeah, John, you've got a medal. Is this from your wife's grandfather?
No, this is from my mother's father.
Okay, hold it up higher so we can see it. Okay, we've got two service medals. Do you know what they are?
First World War Victory Medal and the 1418 War Medal.
Okay, that is just priceless to have those in your hands. What you're holding in your hand represents days and weeks and months
of horror,
of agony and horror. Yes, you're absolutely.
In his case, a lot of agony because he had shrapnel in both legs.
Oh my goodness!
He lived long enough that I remember him losing. His wife dressed his legs every day from the First World War to the right through the Second World War. He worked on the travelling post office on the trains.
Yeah. Where they sorted things on the trains right there.
Yeah, through the Second World War. And in Mount Pleasant, they did letter office.
Without benefit
the other leg off as well.
Yeah, without benefit of penicillin, which came into regular use in World War II, people like this man had to deal constantly with dressing and redressing their shrapnel wounds for years and years and years until their ultimate demise. Okay, awesome. Welcome back, Audrey. We're going to put some super glue on your chair there. Okay. So, can we skip the and go to prisoner of war interview reports from the National Archives?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought this was something when I discovered last night, I thought this is fabulous. And you can view them right online, which was really nice.
I just love this. This is I did a special post.
Yes, my colleagues were very, very pleased that you A, noticed, and B, were pleased about it because they thought this was a brilliant idea and they put a lot of work into it. So
and it was worth it.
It's nice for it to be appreciated.
Oh, man, it's so appreciated. The only other place I know where they really do that is over on Fold 3. Which is, all right, let's go look at this. We've got to view them online.
Yep.
Okay, so we click there so that we can get the search screen, right? Come on, come up.
Well, the search screen's down.
Is it down below?
There
Okay,
it is.
all right, that's me.
Yep.
Okay. I'm partial to Cousin Russ's side of the family today.
That's okay.
No Worthingtons. Okay. Oh, so this would be prisoner of war, so it didn't have to be. All right, so I'll try Collins.
Yeah.
Good old Scottish name, actually, I guess. Okay.
Well, it's Irish.
Oh, okay. Oh, man, you're really yeah, you have to be ecumenical about it, don't you? Scotland and Ireland and living in, Okay, so if we want to view this record, we're going to show the images, but here is a very good description. It's War Office Record 161. It's a record group from the National Archives, and it had been closed for 75 years. So let's go look at this document.
Now, this is one of those, like the Victoria Cross registers, where to get a full download, you would have to pay to see it.
Okay.
Although, when you're on site with us, we can.
You could guess it was your guy.
Yeah. But with these sort of thumbnail things that you're looking at, the image viewer, you get an idea of the sort of record it is, and you can think, yeah, I'm not going to bother. Yes, that looks worth the trouble, so I will download it.
I would definitely find a prisoner of war record or diary entry or transcription of diary entries or their witness report. I would definitely, if it was even close to being my ancestor.
Oh, absolutely. They're unusual records. You don't get them for any. We don't have great records for prisoners of war for the First World War. We've got lots of very good stuff for the Second.
Okay.
Not oddly enough, not so much for the First. But it's like the service records where most are missing. But where you do get something, they're really, really good.
All right, where would you like me to go next, Claire? I just love this record survey work we're doing.
Well, what I'd like to mention, because we're getting close to it's already 2:46 here, so people need to look at the other particular places that we have records. We have Ancestry. If you click on Ancestry,
yes,
tremendous amount of records there. I did add that Silver War badge in there.
Oh, she's got it right there. Yep.
But the Irish casualty World War I records are there.
Okay, let's go look at that.
Let's take a look at that.
Okay, and shall I put
Since
in
her last name was Collins, yeah, I would put the Irish in there.
Okay. See, I don't know my Scotland from my Ireland when it comes to records.
Well, neither do we really. I mean, if like me, you come from southwest Scotland and the Glasgow area, you've got Northern Irish ancestry, and if you're from Northern Ireland, you've got southwest Scotland ancestry.
Yeah.
Only a tiny little bit of sea between them, and people went back and forth all the time. So it's very hard to tell us apart. You know, we're very mixed.
Okay, now this is a printed entry apparently from a book.
Right, and so you would have to go in, it says it on the right what the source is. Remember, we always check and see what the data collection contains. A book of the Ireland Memorial Records, an 8-volume set.
Yes, okay.
So we need to remember that normally when we go in, we just check and make sure we know what we're looking at. But in this case here, we've got the source description right there, which is fabulous. And so you just already know so it tells you whether they where they died or whether they were born. Right.
Yeah.
What they're and it's a fabulous set of records. It's a casualty list.
You know, this is the sort of thing that a non-genealogist would look at. You'd have to point them to it, and the page looks intriguing because it has this Art Nouveau scrolly, viney, whatever, with soldiers across the top.
Yep.
And that's but to us this is really a transcription of information from another place. So it is pretty much secondhand information, but it's still a beautiful page to spotlight the fact that an ancestor's life meant something to be included in this Casualties of World War I.
Correct.
From Ireland. Yes. Okay. Okay, we keep muting you, so you have to unmute yourself, Audrey. Thank you.
It's a good example of a lot of First World War records. There isn't very much information in them, and for the majority of servicemen, you won't find a full service record, so you have to do what you can from these little scrappy sources. And even though none of them looks all that great on their own, by the time you've got several, you can put a thing together. I did something with my grandfather had a brother who was in the army and who was killed, and there's no service record for him, and he was called George Donaldson. Now there are an awful lot of George Donaldsons, quite a number of George Donaldsons who died, and by process of elimination I was looking at Commonwealth war graves, soldiers died in the Great War, the army deaths in General Register Office for Scotland. I knew his date of birth because I had his birth certificate, and various other records. None of them had very much in, but I was able to narrow it down. I looked at the Commonwealth war graves and I thought, well, it's not him because he's from somewhere altogether different, and it's not him because there was something there that ruled him out. He was wildly the wrong age or something, and eventually I was down to 2 soldiers from the Highland Light Infantry, which made sense because they recruited in Glasgow, and they were similar ages, and the death certificates in GRO Scotland actually gave the ages, which you can't always guarantee that, and I decided that the one was much closer to the age than the other, so I figured out that must be him. And then I thought I had got the wrong one because the Glasgow, one of the main Glasgow newspapers has a roll of honour, and there are photographs in the paper. You look somebody up on the roll, and then you can get the paper and find just a little biog. And I got this one out, and I thought, oh no, it's the wrong man after all, because this man is married, and my man wasn't. And then I thought, how do I know he wasn't married? And
yeah, right.
And I looked up the marriage, and yes, it was him. He was married. He'd only been married for a very short time, and there were no children. So
yeah,
the fact that poor Geordie got married before he got killed, that had just passed out of family memory. So it's a good example of not just putting things together from lots of scrappy little sources, and it took me years to do it, but never assume.
Yeah,
and I don't do what I do what I say, and that was a very salutary lesson for me.
This concept of the research methodology, the methods you have to employ, and not jumping to conclusions is important to bring in. So we're not just talking record survey. Yes, we're showing you great record groups to look at, but you've got some smart cookies here. Audrey, thank you for that. You may have noticed, folks, that I went to page 1 by going to the bottom of this microfilm, and I just typed in page 1, and luckily we get on the title page, which is quite beautiful, also the date of publication and who printed it. And this is essential. The other thing that I wanted to do was there was an abbreviation MM, and I don't know, okay, that's who bound it and printed it. It is not giving us what that abbreviation MM stands for in this volume. I don't know what it stands for.
Military medal.
Okay. All right. See, you all know that because you're over there, and I don't know that. And the other thing I would have done would have been to look for somebody with the last name A and look to see if in the very first volume of this set did it explained that MM stood for military medal.
I would try the last image.
Okay, let's go to 389. All right, 3.
Oh, I know why.
Why?
This is volume 2. I bet you it's in volume 1.
I think it's in volume. I think it would be in volume 1. And
you started with. Let's go try that because I have no idea.
So go back and type in a name like that begins with an A.
Yeah, that's my thought. Oh, great! I have to go through this whole darn thing again. Let's start here. Okay, where were we? World War I. Where is it?
This was the Irish casualty list.
Okay. British.
Down. Right there.
Oh, here it is. 14.
Line 14.
Thanks, guys. You know, when you have to do the camera thing, it's like, yeah. Okay, so we'll type Anders or Anderson.
Yeah.
That's not a very British name, but might be. I don't know. Okay, so we're just going to go here because we want to get to page 1 of volume 1.
Or
so we're going to view it. Yeah, one of those first pages. So I'm going to put page 1 to show you we're getting the title page. I think I didn't take the numbers out. Okay, come on, we can do this. 1. Press enter. Okay, there is. Now let's zoom out. Let's zoom out. That's the first.
Your beginning.
Okay, so now we'll go to the next page. And that's who published it. It isn't as pretty as 8 car. And I'll bet you there's nothing on abbreviate. Oh, there's a nice volume 1. Okay. Forward. I love to look at forwards from the author because it explains things like, not in this case, but it'll say, this was intended to be a 14-volume set, but my health is declining, and so I've only done 8 volumes. And these are what I've excluded. That's the kind of thing you can find in a forward of a book, as long as we're talking methodology. Here's the introduction, and this is really important to get the background of it all. owing to circumstances prevailing since 1919, they were unable to do part of what they had proposed doing. And then it goes right away. So we're not seeing any abbreviations.
No abbreviations. So they assume that the person reading it is going to know what those are.
Well, it's a good thing we've got you guys to guide us. All right. Thank you. All right. So we've got 5 minutes. What do you want to do next?
We don't have enough time to do it. Well, then just if we could just slip to that, just show FamilySearch what FamilySearch has, and then so people can see that FamilySearch does have some records.
They have that Williams Auxiliary Corps.
Right. They have that. And then also, of course, slip over to FindMyPast, skip the genealogist, and because that's the group that the archives work at. Look at the list of stuff they have there. Fabulous list of World War.
They've got the naval casualties.
Right.
Soldiers in the households, New Zealand, national role of the Great War, de Rugvigny's role. Boy, I totally massacred that one. Ireland's memorial.
It's de Ruvigny. It's de
Ruvigny.
I think we should get George Morgan to pronounce it because he's got the worst French I've ever heard. So.
we all stumble over that one.
Okay. All right, so there's some major collections there at FindMyPast.
Right,
Was it
and
FindMyPast that you were having trouble with, Claire?
No, it wasn't. It was National Archives, and we're out of time.
Okay,
but
we're out of
let
time.
you wrap up, and I'll send an email to Audrey.
Okay, all right. So here's what we're doing, folks. We have one more session together in study group, and we're going to tackle World War II. And I imagine records after that are under right to privacy.
I would say so.
Let's see what Claire, what Audrey has to say. Audrey, I can't put the camera on you for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, good. The Second World War records, in fact, anything after about the early to mid 1920s, the service records, they're all still held by the Ministry of Defence. Yeah. But you can get some records. You can get, anybody who was a prisoner of war. There's some really, really good prisoner of war records, and quite a lot of them are now online. So that's something. You've still got Commonwealth war graves, and for the Second World War only, that includes civilian casualties as well. So there is a lot for the Second World War, but not the service record. So, but you can still find out quite a lot. The medal records, of course, and although it's not armed services, the only personal records that are available are for people who were in the merchant navy, and they were out there getting shot at. They just couldn't shoot back.
Yeah, so, they weren't equipped. Yeah.
So we'll cover that as much as we can in our time next week.
And I have a request, Audrey. There is, not Audrey. This is for Claire, and maybe I should go looking for it. There is a map of the bombing of London, and it shows how many. I mean, you could zoom it way in and see how many little red dots there are.
Okay.
I would like to add that to our checklist in our Google Sheet for next week because, I've heard about the bombing of London. I've seen movies where people went down in the subway or the tube. Is that what you call it, Audrey?
Yep. Yeah, the tube.
Yeah, that's where they hung out, and people didn't make it, and some people did. And when they came out, they didn't know what they were going to be seeing. I heard that children were moved out to the country.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And I know that. Some estates, I watched my Downton Abbey. I know that they turned some estates into army hospitals. The whole thing is just to understand it from the non-U.S. point of view. Remember, I had a dad that served as a doctor, and he was stationed in New Jersey taking care of people that came from the European theater, and a few from like North Africa and stuff. And my uncle served in the Pacific on the USS Washington, so he was at Guadalcanal and the Philippines and Midway and Iwo Jima and Okinawa, and I mean they did a lot of work over there. So I only know World War II things other than the general discussion of it. in history classes. I only really know it from my ancestors' point of view. So I want to spend time next
we'll
week.
concentrate totally on World War II next week. Sounds like a plan.
I don't know if you can see me if you got the camera back.
I can't move the camera back to you for some reason. What have you got?
I've got an actual Second World War, a national registration identity card. It's not from my family. It was something that was given to me, but it is an actual genuine one.
Scan it. Take pictures with your camera, anything, so we can see it.
Thank you, Audrey. That would be wonderful.
I think that World War II is what the beginning genealogists can reach back to.
Yes, and also although it's not a military record, in fact it's specifically not military, our big record release within the last year was the 1939 register.
Yes. In place of your 41, and to find out where people were and
exactly. So that's it's very specifically not the military people because they were registered elsewhere, but it's got a huge amount of information about the home front, and there is actually some military information because when people who were civilians, sometimes you get details of which bit of the forces they joined up later. It's a bit hit and miss. But again, they had to make the list before they could conscript anybody.
Yeah, well, let's spend 5 minutes in the 1939.
I've got his card, so we'll be right.
Thank you. All right, and in 1939, I don't know that it was Ireland and Scotland and Wales and England that were enumerated, but we'll find out next week.
Yep.
And Cousin Russ, thanks for bringing a few comments in till you froze up there for a bit. I appreciate you.
Hadn't been any comments since, so.
Yeah, it's all good. I think people have, John, really benefited by seeing those medals that you held in your hand for this gentleman. May he rest in peace. He's not having that pain. Claire, we're so happy to have you with us and to guide us and to help develop this Google sheet so that we have something to do afterwards, as opposed to, we've attended our 1 hour session and we've learned it all. No, we can't possibly learn it all. There's so much out there, as we could see from World War II. And as always, Audrey, you just have rounded out our discussion beautifully, and I do appreciate everyone being here today. On behalf of Cousin Russ, I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.